Mountain Man won a useless wife at a poker table. Her secret will leave you breathless. Grindstone Ridge was not a place people chose. It was a place people ended up. The asteroid floated alone in a dark corner of space, far from trade routes, far from law, and far from hope. The surface was rough and broken, filled with deep mining cuts and old machines that never truly stopped making noise. The people there were the same, broken, loud, and always working. Among them lived a man named Elias Vorn. Elias was not like the others. He didn't talk much, he didn't drink much, and he didn't lose. People said he had once lived on a real planet, with mountains and fresh air. Some said he left by choice. Others said he had no choice. No one really knew, but everyone knew one thing. Elias Vorn survived, and in a place like Grindstone Ridge, that made him dangerous. Every week, the outpost held a poker night. It was not just a game. It was a way to settle debts, build alliances, and sometimes ruin lives. That night, the room was louder than usual. Aliens of different species sat around metal tables. Smoke filled the air. Chips clinked. Voices rose. Tempers waited just under the surface. Elias sat at the far end of the table. Still, calm, watching. He didn't smile. He didn't speak unless needed. He only played. Across from him sat a thin, nervous alien trader named Krell. His long fingers tapped the table again and again. Sweat, or something like it, ran down his pale skin. He was losing. Badly. Double. Krell said, his voice shaking. The others laughed. "You're finished," someone said. "Walk away," another added. But Krell didn't walk away. He leaned forward, his eyes wide, desperate. "I still have something," he said. Elias didn't react. He simply looked at him. "What?" Elias asked quietly. Krell hesitated. Then he signaled to someone behind him. A door opened, and a woman was pushed inside. She didn't look like she belonged there. She was human, thin, pale, quiet. Her clothes were simple and worn. Her dark hair fell loosely around her face. She didn't resist when she was brought forward. She didn't even look at anyone. She just stood there, still, empty. The room went quiet for a moment. Then laughter exploded. "You're serious?" someone shouted. "That's your stake?" another said. Krell swallowed. "She is a domestic unit," he said quickly. "Human, modified, but defective." More laughter. "She can't think properly," Krell added. Low response. "Weak body. No real use. But still she is human." Elias watched her. Carefully. She did not react to the noise. Did not look afraid. Did not look angry. She just stood, like she wasn't really there. "What's her name?" Elias asked. Krell hesitated. "Lyra." Elias studied her a moment longer. Then he nodded once. "Fine," he said. The game continued. The final hand came quickly. Krell was shaking now. His hands moved too fast. His eyes kept jumping between the cards and Elias. Elias, as always, was calm, silent. When the cards were revealed, the result was clear. Elias had won. Again, the table erupted. Unbelievable. He never loses. Krell slumped back in his chair. His face went pale. "It's done," Elias said simply. Krell didn't argue. He couldn't. Two guards stepped forward and pushed Lyra toward Elias. "She's yours now," one of them said with a grin. More laughter. Elias stood up slowly. He looked at Lyra. Up close, she looked even stranger. Her eyes were open but unfocused, like she was looking through everything instead of at it. "Can you walk?" Elias asked. No answer. The room laughed again. She probably forgot how. Elias didn't react. After a moment, Lyra moved. Slowly, quietly. She followed him. Elias lived in a small metal housing unit near the edge of the outpost. It was simple. One room, one bed, basic tools. Nothing more. When they entered, Lyra stopped near the door. She didn't move further. Elias set his jacket aside. "You can sit," he said. She didn't respond. He sighed quietly. "Fine. Stand." He grabbed a metal cup, filled it with water, and placed it on the table. "Drink." No movement. Elias watched her carefully now. Something wasn't right. He had seen broken people before. People who were scared. People who had given up. But this felt different. Lyra, he said. Her eyes shifted slightly. Just slightly. But she still didn't speak. Elias leaned back against the wall. All right, he muttered. This is going to be interesting. The next morning, Elias left early for work. He didn't expect anything from her. He half expected she might still be standing in the same spot when he returned. But when he came back hours later, she was sitting at the table. The water was gone. The cup was clean. Elias paused the door. That was new. Good, he said simply. No response. He stepped inside. You ate? He asked, pointing at some food supplies. She didn't answer, but a small portion was missing. Elias nodded once. Good. He sat down and began checking his tools. The room stayed quiet. Too quiet. But then, a sound, very faint, a distant vibration from outside, something deep in the mining tunnels. Elias didn't react. He hadn't noticed. But Lyra, her head turned instantly, sharp, focused, her eyes locked toward the wall, as if she could see through it. Elias noticed. He froze. Slowly, he looked at her. What is it? He asked. No answer. She blinked once, and just like that, she returned to her empty state, like nothing had happened. Elias frowned. Over the next few days, Elias watched her more closely, and the strange things continued. She never spoke, never complained, but sometimes she reacted. Once, before a machine outside failed, she looked toward its icons before the alarm sounded. Another time, she moved out of the way of a falling tool before it even slipped. Small things, easy to miss. But Elias didn't miss them. One night he tested her. He dropped a metal object behind her, fast, without warning. She caught it perfectly, without even turning fully. Then she froze and slowly let it fall, back to being useless. Elias stared at her. Yeah, he said quietly, you're not what they said you are. No response, but for a brief second, he thought he saw something behind her eyes. That night, Elias finally went to sleep. The outpost outside was loud as always. Machines, voices, distant arguments. But inside the small room, everything was still. Hours passed. Elias slept deeply, and Lyra sat in the darkness, not moving, not breathing heavily, just still. Then something changed. Her head lifted slightly. Her eyes opened wider. And for the first time, there was no emptiness. Her gaze sharpened, focused, alive. A faint glow flickered deep inside her pupils, like data, like something processing. Her body straightened. Perfect posture, perfect control. Silent, different. She turned her head slowly toward Elias, watching him, studying him, not like a broken person, not like a servant, but like something calculating. Something aware, something hidden, then a soft whisper. So quiet it almost didn't exist. Status compromised. Her eyes flickered again. Faster now. Streams of invisible information moving through her. Her fingers twitched slightly. Controlled, precise, alive, outside, far beyond the asteroid. Something moved in the darkness. Something searching. Something listening. And inside the small metal room, the useless woman sat awake, no longer broken, no longer empty, and definitely not what anyone believed. The next few days changed everything for Elias, but not in a loud way, not in a way others could see. It was quiet, small moments, small mistakes, small truths trying to escape. Elias woke early as always. The outpost was still half asleep, but machines never rested. The deep sound of mining drills echoed to the metal walls like a slow heartbeat. He sat up and looked across the room. Lyra was sitting in the same chair, still, silent, watching nothing. Or maybe watching everything. Elias stood and stretched. All right, he said, let's see what you can do today. No response. He grabbed a toolkit and placed it on the table in front of her. Sort these, he said, by size. Simple task. Even a child could do it. Lyra didn't move. Elias waited. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. He turned away with a small sigh. Thought so, he muttered. But behind him, her fingers moved. Fast. Too fast. The tools shifted quietly. Perfectly arranged. Clean lines. Exact order. Then she stopped. Her hands froze. And when Elias turned back, the tools were scattered again. Like nothing had happened, Elias stared at the table, then slowly at her. Right, he said under his breath. Later that day, Elias took her outside. The mining fields were rough and dangerous. Heavy machines moved constantly. Sparks flew. Workers shouted over the noise. Lyra walked beside him, slow, careful, like she didn't belong in her own body. A group of workers noticed them. One laughed. Hey, Vorn, your prize still broken? Another added, careful, she might forget how to breathe. More laughter. Elias ignored them. But Lyra did not react, not even a blink. That made it worse. Elias stopped near one of the mining rigs. The machine was old, loud, unstable. He opened a panel and began working. Stay there, he told her. She stood behind him, still, watching. The machine suddenly made a strange noise, a sharp, wrong sound. Elias frowned. That's not. Before he could finish, Lyra stepped forward. Her hand reached out, touched the panel, just for a second, and the machine stabilized perfectly. The noise stopped. Everything ran smooth. Elias froze. Slowly, he turned toward her. She had already stepped back, her face empty again, like she had done nothing. Elias closed the panel slowly. His mind was no longer calm. That night, he didn't sleep right away. He sat across from her, watching, thinking. You fix that machine, he said. No response. You caught the tool. Silence. You hear things before they happen. Nothing. Elias leaned forward. You think I'm stupid? Lyra didn't move, but something changed. Very small, very fast. Her breathing shifted, just slightly. Elias saw it. Yeah, he said quietly. I see you. Still no answer. But now, he was sure. She was hiding. The attack came 2 nights later. No warning, no signal, just silence. Then chaos. The lights across Grindstone Ridge flickered once, then died. Darkness covered the outpost. A second later, explosions. Distant at first, then closer. People shouted. Alarms tried to start, but failed. Elias was already on his feet. Stay here, he told Lyra. No answer. He grabbed his rifle and moved toward the door. Then he paused. Something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too sudden. He stepped outside. The air was filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. Figures moved in the distance, but not normal ones. They flickered, like shadows that didn't belong. Cloaked units. Advanced. Dangerous. Raiders. Elias raised his weapon and fired. One shadow dropped, but more appeared. Fast. Too fast. They moved like they knew everything. Every path. Every defense. People were falling, screaming, running. Elias took cover behind a metal barrier. This isn't a normal raid, he muttered. Then, a flash. Something moved behind him. He turned. Too slow. A cloaked attacker appeared right in front of him. Weapon raised. No time. No escape. Then, Lyra moved. She was suddenly there. Between them. Her body no longer slow. No longer weak. Perfect. Precise. She stepped slightly to the side. Dodged the attack before it even happened. Her hand struck the attacker's weapon. Not hard, but exact. The weapon failed instantly. She turned, grabbed the attacker, and dropped him in one smooth motion. Silent, controlled, efficient. Elias stared. This was not the same person. Not even close. Another cloak unit moved behind them. Lyra didn't even look. Left, she said calmly. Elias reacted instantly. He fired. Hit. Perfect shot. He looked at her. You can see them? Yes. Simple. Clear. Not broken. Not empty. The fight continued. But now, it was different. Lyra moved through the battlefield like she already knew what would happen. She predicted attacks. She avoided danger before it came. She guided Elias. 3 ahead. Down. Now. Every word saved time. Every movement saved lives. People began to notice. Who is she? What is she doing? But no one had time to understand. Within minutes, the attackers began to fall back, not defeated, but confused. Their advantage was gone. Their invisibility, useless. They disappeared into the darkness. Gone, just like they came. Silence returned slowly, broken only by distant fires and injured voices. Elias stood still, breathing heavy, alive, because of her. He turned to Lyra. She was already different again. Her posture relaxed, her eyes empty, like nothing had happened. Don't, Elias said. She paused, just slightly. Don't go back to that, he added. Silence. Then, slowly, she looked at him, really looked, for the first time. They returned to the room. No words were spoken until the door closed. Then Elias turned. Start talking. Lyra stood still. Seconds passed. Then she spoke. Clear, calm, controlled. I was not meant to be here. Elias crossed his arms. No, I figured that out. She continued. My current state is concealment, meaning I am pretending. Elias let out a short breath. Yeah, I got that part too. She looked at him carefully, studying him again, not like before. Different now, less hidden. Who are you? Elias asked. A pause. Then, I do not fully remember. Elias frowned. That's not helpful. My memory is incomplete, she said. Damage or suppression. Convenient. It is not a lie. Elias stared at her, trying to decide. Trust or not. Outside, distant lights moved in the sky. Ships, not normal ones. Too organized. Too many. Elias noticed. That wasn't just a raid, he said slowly. Lyra turned her head slightly. Listening. Processing. No, she said. What was it? She paused, then answered. They were searching. Elias felt something cold in his chest. For what? Lyra looked at him, straight into his eyes. And this time, there was no emptiness, no mask, only truth. For me. Silence filled the room. Heavy, dangerous. Elias walked to the small window. More lights appeared in the distance. Closer now. They're coming back, he said. Yes. How many? Enough. Elias let out a slow breath. Then he turned back to her. You're going to explain everything. Lyra nodded once, but before she could speak, her eyes flickered again, faster than before, like something deep inside her was waking up, or remembering. Far out in space, a signal activated. Old, hidden, human, and something answered. Inside the room, Lyra spoke one final sentence. Soft, but heavy. I am not defective. A pause. Then, I am classified. The sky above Grindstone Ridge was no longer empty. Lights moved in the distance. Cold, controlled, watching. Elias stood near the window, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the growing shapes. Ships, not trader ships, not miner ships, warships. And they were coming closer. Behind him, Lyra stood in silence. But she was not the same anymore. The mask was fading. Not fully gone, but breaking. You said they're searching for you, Elias said without turning. Now you're going to tell me why. Lyra didn't answer immediately. Her eyes flickered again. Fast streams of something invisible moving behind them. Processing, recovering, remembering. Fragment or returning, she said quietly. Elias turned. Good. Start with those. She looked at him, not like before, not empty, not pretending. Now she looked to where I was created, she said. Elias raised an eyebrow. Yeah, most people are. No, she replied calmly. I was constructed. Silence. Elias didn't joke this time. Go on. There was a program. Lyra continued. Human. Classified. Lost. Her voice stayed calm, but something deeper moved behind it. Aegis line. Elias frowned. Never heard of it. You were not meant to. Lyra stepped closer to the center of the room. Her posture straightened again. Not like a worker. Not like a broken person. Like something trained. Perfect balance. Perfect control. Humanity was underestimated, she said, by every major species. Elias gave a small, dry smile. Still is. Yes, she replied, and that allowed them to hide. Hide what? Preparation. She raised her hand slightly. Her fingers moved through the air like she was touching something invisible, while others expanded openly. Humans play systems quietly. Systems? Elias asked. Defense networks. Data relays. Adaptive units. Elias narrowed his eyes. And you're one of those? A pause. Then, yes. Elias walked slowly around the room, thinking. This Aegis line, what was exactly? Lyra's gaze followed him. We were designed to survive unnoticed, to observe, to learn, to adapt. We. There were others. Were they now? I do not know. That answer didn't sit well. Elias stopped. Convenient again. It is not intentional, she said. My memory is incomplete. Yeah, you said that. Outside, a distant rumble echoed, not from the surface, from above. The ships were getting closer. Elias looked back at her. Those things out there, they're not just raiders, are they? No. What are they? Lyra paused, then answered, enforcement. Elias felt the words settle heavy in the room. Enforcement of what? She met his eyes. Control. Let me guess. Elias said. Humans stepped out of line. Yes. He let out a quiet breath. Figures. Lyra continued. They monitor developing species, limit expansion, remove threats before they grow. And we're a threat? Yes. A small silence followed that. Elias smiled slightly. Good. But Lyra didn't smile. Her expression stayed serious. You are more dangerous than they predicted. Why? She tilted her head slightly. Because you do not follow expected patterns. Elias chuckled. That's called being human. Yes, she said, and they do not understand it. The room went quiet again. Then Elias spoke. So they're here because of you. Yes. And if they find you, they will not leave anything alive. That part was simple. Clear. Final. Elias nodded slowly. All right. Lyra blinked once. You understand the situation. Yeah, he said. We're in trouble. Severe. Yeah. But then, Elias did something unexpected. He sat down, calm, relaxed, like this was just another problem. Lyra watched him, confused. That response is incorrect, she said. Elias looked at her. No, he replied. It's human. She studied him, trying to understand. Most people would run, she said. Where? Elias asked. She paused. No answer. Exactly, he said. There's nowhere to go. So we stay. Staying results in destruction. Maybe. You accept that? Elias leaned forward slightly. No, he said. I reject it. That word, reject, it didn't fit into Lyra's calculations. She processed it again and again, but it didn't follow logic. Probability of survival is below 1%, she said. Then we make it higher, Elias replied. Something changed. Not outside, not in the ships. Inside her, a small shift, a variable, unpredictable. Lyra's eyes flickered again. But this time, different, not just data. Something else. Explain, she said. Elias stood. Simple, direct. We fight. She stared at him, processing, rejecting, recalculating. Outcome remains negative, she said. Then your math needs work, he replied. Another shift. Stronger now. Outside, alarms began to activate. Weak at first, then louder. The outpost had finally noticed the fleet. Too late. People began running, shouting, panic spreading fast. Elias grabbed his gear. "We're not letting this place burn," he said. "This location is not strategically valuable." Lyra replied, "Doesn't matter." "It does." "No," Elias said firmly. "It doesn't." She watched him, again, trying to understand something she was never designed for. "These people will die," she said. "Not if we stop it." "We cannot." "Watch me." That word again. "Cannot." Elias ignored it like it didn't exist. Lyra's system struggled. Her logic said one thing. Reality was starting to say something else. Suddenly, her head turned sharply, toward the ground. Deep below, Elias noticed. "What is it?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes focused. "Far away, far deeper." "Signal detected," she said quietly. "What kind of signal?" She stepped forward, slowly, like she was being pulled. "Human." Elias frowned. "From where?" She pointed down. "Below this structure, beneath the asteroid's surface." Elias stared at the floor. "There's nothing down there." "There is," she said. Her voice was different now. Stronger. Certain. "Ancient system," she continued. "Dormant. Hidden." Elias crossed his arms. "And you just found it?" "No," she said. A pause. Then, "It found me." Silence. Heavy. Outside, the sky lit up. The first ships moved into position. Weapons charging. Energy building. Time was running out. Elias looked back at her. "You can access it?" "Yes." "Will it help?" A pause. Longer this time. "Unknown." Elias nodded once. "Good enough." Lyra stepped closer to the center of the room. Her eyes glowed faintly now. Not hidden anymore. Active. "Connection attempt starting," she said. The ground beneath them trembled. Soft at first. Then stronger. Deep below, something ancient woke up. Systems powered on. After years. After decades. Maybe longer. Forgotten machines. Human machines. Buried defenses. Silent watchers. Waiting. Waiting for a signal. Waiting for her. Lyra's body stiffened. Her voice changed. Layered. Echoing slightly. Access granted. Elias stared. "What did you just do?" She turned slowly toward him. Her eyes no longer human. "Not fully." "I opened the door." Outside, the enemy fleet paused. Just for a second. Because something in the system changed. Something unexpected. Something human. And for the first time, the hunters felt uncertainty. Inside the small metal room, the useless woman stood at the center. Connected. Awake. Power rising. And Elias Vorn just smiled. "Now," he said quietly, "let's make that 1% a little better." The asteroid was shaking. Not from explosions. Not from the enemy fleet. From something deeper. Something waking up. Elias stood steady, even as the floor trembled beneath his boots. "What did you just activate?" he asked. Lyra didn't answer immediately. Her body was still. But her eyes, they were no longer just eyes. Light moved inside them. Fast. Constant. Alive. "System online," she said. Her voice carried a strange echo now. Not loud, but layered, like more than one version of her was speaking at once. Outside, the enemy fleet moved into attack formation. Large ships spread out across the dark sky. Weapons charged. Cold blue light gathered at their fronts, ready to erase everything below. Inside the asteroid, hidden systems came alive. Panels opened in silent walls. Old machines powered up after years of sleep. Energy lines lit up like veins under the rock. Elias grabbed his rifle. "Well," he said, "let's hope your ancient system knows what it's doing." Lyra turned her head slowly toward him. "I am the system," she said. A second later, the first strike came. A beam of energy shot down from the sky. Fast, bright, deadly. But before it could hit, the asteroid responded. A field appeared. Invisible, but strong. The beam hit it and split, deflected. Harmless. Elias blinked. "Okay," he said quietly. "That's new." More beams followed. Faster. Stronger. The asteroid answered each one. Shields formed. Angles shifted. Energy redirected. The enemy ships adjusted. Their movements became sharper, more focused. They're adapting. Elias said. Yes, Lyra replied. So am I. Her hands moved slightly in the air, not touching anything, but controlling everything. Outside, debris in orbit began to move. Old metal, broken rocks, forgotten satellites. They weren't random. They were weapons. One by one, they activated. Energy pulses fired from unexpected angles. Ships were hit. Shields broke. Explosions lit the darkness. The fleet reacted, but they were confused. This was not supposed to happen. This place was supposed to be empty, weak, easy. Elias stepped closer to the window, watching, fighting the urge to smile. Guess they didn't do their homework, he said. No, Lyra said quietly. They did not understand humanity. More systems came online. Deep below, far beyond what the eye could see. The asteroid was not just a rock. It was a fortress, hidden, waiting, and now, awake. But the enemy was not weak. More ships arrived, bigger ones, heavier weapons. The sky filled with light, explosions, energy, chaos. Elias turned away from the window. What about the ground? He asked. They will deploy units, Lyra said. Soon. Of course they will. Right on time. Dropships broke from the fleet, falling fast toward the surface. Elias checked his weapon. Then we meet them. Lyra looked at him. You cannot win ground combat alone. I won't be alone. He stepped outside, into the chaos. The outpost was alive with movement. People were scared, running, shouting. But when they saw Elias, they slowed, just a little. He's still standing. Why isn't he running? Elias raised his voice. Listen. The noise faded slightly, not completely, but enough. They came to wipe us out, he shouted, so we don't give them a chance. Some looked unsure. Some looked afraid. Elias continued. We've been surviving here with nothing. Broken machines. No help. No safety. He pointed to the sky. And now they think we're easy? Silence. Then one worker stepped forward. We're not. Another nodded. Yeah. Something shifted. Not fear. Something stronger. Human stubbornness. Elias gave a small nod. Good, he said. Then pick up whatever you've got. And don't go down easy. The drop ships hit the ground. Hard. Metal slammed against rock. Doors opened. Enemy units stepped out. Armored. Precise. Deadly. The fight began. Gunfire. Explosions. Close combat. Elias moved through it all. Calm. Focus. He wasn't the strongest. Wasn't the fastest. But he didn't stop, and the others followed. Because humans didn't need to win perfectly. They just needed to refuse to lose. Above, the battle continued. Lyra stood alone inside the control room, connected, every system flowing through her. But something was wrong. Her breathing changed. Her movement slowed. Energy strain increasing, she said softly. System overload risk rising. Her body wasn't built for this. Not for full activation. Not for this long. Still, she continued. More weapons fired. More ships fell. But the enemy fleet pushed harder. A massive ship moved forward, larger than the rest. Command unit. It fired. A weapon unlike the others. The shield held. For a second, then cracked. Warning signals filled Lyra's vision. Failure threshold approaching, she said. Below, Elias saw the sky flicker. That didn't look good, he muttered. He turned toward the control room. Lyra. No answer. Inside, Lyra stood shaking now. Her system struggling. Fragments of memory flashed. Broken pieces. Old voices. You are not just a weapon. You are the key. Her eyes widened slightly. Key, understanding hit. She wasn't just controlling the system. She was meant to become it. Fully. But that meant letting go. Letting herself disappear into it. Outside, the massive enemy weapon charged again. Time was gone. Lyra whispered softly. I understand now. She reached forward, not with her hands, but with everything she was. and she let go. The system reacted instantly. Power surged, beyond limits, beyond design. The asteroid lit up. Every hidden weapon activated at once. A wave of energy exploded outward. The enemy fleet was caught inside it. Shields failed. Ships broke. Explosions chained across the sky. The command ship tried to retreat. Too late, it vanished in light. Silence followed. Slow, heavy. The sky was empty again. The battle was over. Below, Elias stood still, breathing hard, looking up. "We did it," someone whispered. But Elias didn't smile. He turned and ran back to the room. Inside, Lyra stood in the center, still, silent, her eyes dark again. "No," Elias said quietly. He stepped closer, slow, careful. "Hey," he said, "don't do this." No response. He reached out, touched her shoulder. Warm, still there. "Lyra," he said. Seconds passed. Then, a small breath. Her eyes flickered. "Weak, but alive. System stable," she whispered. Elias let out a breath. He didn't know he was holding. "You stayed," he said. She looked at him. Different now. Not empty. Not just controlled. Something softer. "I changed," she said quietly. "How?" She paused, then answered, "I learned." Elias gave a small smile. "About what?" She looked around the room, then back at him. "About humanity." Silence. Then she added, "I was designed to protect it." A small pause. "But now?" Her voice softened. "I choose to be part of it." Elias nodded slowly. "Good choice," he said. Outside, the people of Grindstone Ridge began to gather, looking at the sky, at the wreckage, at what they had survived. They didn't fully understand what happened, but they knew one thing. They were still alive, because humans didn't break easily. And sometimes, their greatest strength was something no one could predict. Inside the small metal room, the useless woman stood beside the mountain man. No longer a secret, no longer a weapon, something more. And far beyond that asteroid, across the stars, a message spread quietly. A warning. Humanity was never weak. It was just waiting.